Hey friends, I am Hannah, and for today's survey teardown, I really don't like calling it a teardown because it's not supposed to survey shame. But for today's survey look, as part of the surveys project, we're looking at a cancellation survey from Bloom. Bloom is a therapy app, very cool concept. And what you're looking at here is an email from the co-founder about this cancellation survey. We're going to start at the top right here. So normally I don't encourage or recommend calling out the fact that this is a survey in the subject line. People don't really like surveys. They have a bad rep. It's very rare unless there's an incentive attached that people are willing to complete a survey, unless there's some existing rapport. In this particular case, it's not a bad lead-in, right? Because I actually just canceled my subscription to Bloom, and I might otherwise be annoyed as to why are they reaching out. So in this case, I can assume it's a cancellation survey. I would actually introduce the language around canceling here, maybe even ask what made you decide to cancel with Bloom. That way it anchors in my mind that there isn't an ignoring of the fact that I've unsubscribed. This is actually an acknowledgement of the fact that I canceled and a slight follow-up. So that's number one. Number two is I love that they're leading with the co-founder here, that the email is from the co-founder. It just adds a personal touch, right? It makes me feel like there's a person of high status in this company who genuinely wants to know why I decided to cancel. And the email is very genuine. Thanks for giving Bloom a try. As a new company, we're always looking for feedback. Would love to hear your reason for cancellation, see how we can make Bloom better. It's just a very nice, genuine ask. And that makes a difference when people are taking the time to actually open and read the email. Also, the fact that it's a 2-minute survey feels considerate, right? There is this respect for, I know you're busy, I appreciate your time. This would be super helpful for us. So they're really kind of tapping into that reciprocity principle, and just a very, very genuine ask. The links are very easy to see and to click. Short email and pretty straightforward to know what the ask is in the email. I don't have to dig and dissect and figure out what's happening. So let's take a look at the survey itself. All right, so first off, we're going to start at the top like we always do, like you should too, and work our way down so that we're actually getting the experience of the survey. So when I open this, the first thing I'm seeing is Bloom user feedback just by default because it's the biggest text on the page. So we want to actually take this as an opportunity to bring the reader, user on the same page. As opposed to just calling this what it is, let's activate the survey element and start to introduce the fact that, introduce what we want to talk to them about. I'm going to show you a version of this that I redid and edited and kind of introduced some recommendations. So you'll see what that looks like in a sec. This section, very few people read this. I didn't, for example, when I clicked over here, it's just sort of it can tend to feel kind of throwaway just because people are very action oriented. Still, what we write in there, if someone does pause to look at it, we want to make sure that it supports this whole kind of one-to-one feel that has been created with the previous email. But when they say things like we value every input we get from our users, there's still this element of I am in this bank of users, right? It stops being a co-founder and me relationship that was established in that email, and it starts to feel like this is a mass email or a mass survey. And of course it is, but these small little touches just make the user, the reader, feel seen. So I would say something like, we value your input, your insight can help us improve, just so it's specific to me. I feel like you're actually talking to me, to each individual user. All right, first question. What was the reason for your cancellation? Off the bat, I'll say that you can check off a few here, so it would be great to have that mentioned. Otherwise, this can look like it's a select one when it's actually check all the apply, and you wouldn't want people to be like fussing over which one they would pick when they don't actually have to. So just really making instructions visible, clear, easy. Let's look at the actual responses. So the thing with multiple choice is it is helpful, but if the options aren't as helpful in and of themselves, it can lead to inaccurate data. It can introduce confusion and friction for the user, which makes, again, for wonky data. So you want to make sure that multiple choice isn't actually like cornering you in a way that your data is just not insufficient, and that it's actually not just easier, but supporting and getting you clarity and accurate insight. So when we say things like, I was looking for something else, what does this mean? Does this mean that maybe I was looking for like a different Bloom app? Is that what they're really asking here? I'd encourage some more clarity around this so that the user, the reader, doesn't have to insert their own assumptions. They don't have to guess and figure out like what this means, which then means that if I select it, your definition of looking for something else and my definition of looking for something else are different. So the fact that I've selected it doesn't really tell you much. The second one, the content wasn't relevant for me. This one's also a little bit curious, like relevant how? The app is designed in a way that you enter in your emotional state, you kind of score what you're feeling. Based on that, you get video content that is essentially therapy. So the fact that they're asking the content, or the option is the content wasn't relevant for me, is interesting. Does it mean that, like, are they alluding to the fact that even though the app lets you personalize the videos that you receive, I still might feel like the content's not specific to me? That could be a really valuable thing for it is a great thing for the company to know, but I would add more color here so that I understand what relevant means as someone using it or someone who's used the app. This still feels quite vague, so I wouldn't know to select it, or if I did, how exactly would that serve Bloom, right? Like, okay, so did they make what part of the content more relevant? How? Is the content too basic for me? Is it too advanced? Did it feel like the options for videos were not specific enough? That's like 3 different options inside of relevance. So really qualifying relevance is going to help. Couldn't see myself using it. This is such a good one. Perception of use is so important. If people, especially since the app is kind of portrayed to be like part of your habit, right? You're supposed to enter yourself, your mood and your emotional state regularly and consistently. So not being able to see myself using it is a huge, huge barrier. So I love that this is in here. Is there more that we can add? Couldn't see myself using it regularly. Is there like a follow-up question that we could ask? I would even love to like interview people who've selected this as an option, just to really, really unpack to what extent that is a barrier, because it's such a good one. Technical problems, that's fine. If there's a bit more nuance we can add there, or like another follow-up. Technical problems in what sense? Just to help people bring more clarity. Like, is it that the app kept shutting down? Was something specific not working? So if they do select technical problems, you can kind of introduce a follow-up. Expensive, fine. Didn't have a chance to check it out. I assume this is that like you didn't have a chance to check it out before the trial expired because you didn't want to pay beyond the free trial. So I would add that in there. Make sure that language is like very visible and clear, because otherwise didn't have a chance to check it out it doesn't quite make sense as a reader, like other than it being around the trial. But I didn't think of that off the bat. I thought, what do they mean I didn't have a chance to check it out? Why wouldn't I have if I had a chance to hit cancel? Video isn't my thing. Would have preferred audio or text. That's totally fine. Makes a lot of sense. And then other. This is a required question. So if I select other and I want to actually see if it lets me. So it doesn't let me complete this by just answering other. I actually have to write an answer. So if I don't have clarity about what other is, and none of these feel like they're an exact fit, I might end up just like picking one because I don't want to fill out other. This sounds like a really small thing, but we do this a lot. We look for the easiest path. Now, if these aren't as relevant and clicking other means I have to enter it, I might just be like, forget it. I'll just pick the closest one too, which muddies up your data. So you want to make sure that if you're offering multiple choice, they are the right options to choose from. All right, let's look at the next question. Would you prefer to see a different speaker? So this kind of came out of left field. Like I wasn't even thinking about the speaking. There was also a couple of days in between getting this email and then me actually completing the survey. So a bit of context here would help. If there's an option to like, if the speaker aspect could be included as a reason for canceling, assuming the person selects that, then the skip logic would introduce this particular question. Because this sort of feels like, would you have preferred to see a different speaker? Like I wasn't even thinking that. And I'm curious if others are thinking that. Not to say that they aren't, but we have at this point in the survey, we have no reason to think that they are. So we want to introduce an idea before we ask a more nitty-gritty question about it. I didn't mind the speaker, but would have been nice to choose somebody else. Definitely yes. No, the male speaker was perfect. So I chose this, but not because the male speaker was perfect. It's just because it just didn't register for me. Like I was like, oh, okay, there's a speaker now or a video now. I wasn't really thinking about the fact that it was female or not, or a person of color or not. And that's also because I didn't watch a lot of the videos. So this seems like they're getting at something specific here that might not be relevant to ask everyone. What did you like about Bloom? So valid question. I'm curious how many answers they get. This is a question where multiple choice would be super helpful and also validating for the company internally, as well as this. What did you not like about Bloom? So presumably the initial question is the reason for canceling kind of overlaps with what did you not like about Bloom, but we do want to ask like a like and not like question back to back, because sometimes people will say, well, you asked me only what I liked. You didn't ask about what I didn't like, even though the whole thing is primarily first and foremost about canceling. So great question to ask too. I, again, would include multiple choice just to increase the likelihood of responses that you're getting. So maybe using, even for now, the free form responses to inform multiple choice. What can we add so you would give Bloom a second chance? I like the intention of this question, but it feels like the work is on me. Like I have no idea what the options are. Should I just ask for like an extended trial, a free month? If you don't give people parameters as to what's feasible, then it can be either difficult to get a response or they will just like ask for the most extreme thing. If also there's not a sense of like, will I get follow-up based on this? If I ask for like a free month, will I actually get it? Is someone receiving these results? So having something here, something concrete, like would like to offer you an extended trial. If you're interested, put in your email. Something like that feels like tangible, actionable. There's actually going to be a result. I can make a concrete decision as opposed to having to figure out why I want, what more I would like about Bloom to stay. Because maybe the thing that I wanted is actually like, this is not a fit for me, versus it being like something like price. So I would have even introduced this as like a skip logic if someone says like too expensive or didn't have a chance to check it out. I would introduce a question like this, like not even a question of like, put your email below and would love to extend your trial, or even as a follow-up, just to anchor this a bit more. If people feel like this is work, maybe they're giving very extreme answers here, and I'm not sure how helpful that is for Bloom. Other thoughts you'd like to share? Perfect. You always want to have a question like that when the survey is a little bit on the longer side, like over 3 to 4 questions, and it's an actual survey form. Great to have this as like a catch-all. But let me show you what I did, which was I kind of rejigged the survey so that I could use some of the recommendations I was sharing you and actually show what that would look like. So off the bat, we've got what made you decide to leave Bloom. So we're getting them thinking and orienting to the topic of the survey at the top of the survey. Every bit of feedback helps, so thank you. Your insight helps improve our product, etc. Just so it feels like more me specific, the user specific. All right, so what made you decide to cancel your subscription to Bloom? I would ask this as a free-form question first, and then use the free-form answers to supplement and replace this with like a multiple choice. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have the multiple choice altogether, because people might decide to cancel for reasons that are different to what we want to know about. So you can still ask a follow-up of like, did any of these make you want to cancel? The content was too basic for me, videos were too long, content was not actionable, too expensive, technical problems, video isn't my thing. So you can still include these, and I would still even add the like, couldn't see myself using it as well, but with a little more nuance, or I didn't have a chance to check it out before the trial expired. So I would still actually add those in here. Let's do that. Here, couldn't see myself using it, didn't have a chance to check it out before the free trial expired. So this way you can sort the information, you can start to get some clarity on multiple choice. You can ask about other multiple choice options or other like reasons for canceling that maybe they didn't mention, or if this answer here is super vague, not to worry, you can follow it up and capture what you're really looking for in this follow-up. So eventually you'd want to collapse these, but this is a great interim solution. All right, would you have preferred a different speaker? So I kept this in here, but I still don't think it's exactly a fit. Like I would actually perhaps include this speaking option here, to then have this as like a skip logic follow-up, and just change the responses. It sounds like this is something also that is not really specific to canceling. Like this, I wonder if this is more specific to even people using the app currently, as opposed to the people canceling, unless one of the options is like, didn't like the speakers in the videos, right? So unless that's an option and someone like actively selects it, I wouldn't follow up with this, and perhaps ask this to like the broader user base rather than these specifically. Feels like the question's getting to something else versus what it's just asking, just because it kind of came out of the blue. All right, what I've done here, instead of like, what did you like about Bloom? So arguably the person has not spent too much time in Bloom. What if they didn't have a chance to check it out before the trial expired? So I would include some skip logic and not ask this to everyone. But instead of what did you like, what made you sign up for Bloom in the first place? So this is a decision point that's actually really important, because in order to figure out why they left and the value of that, you want to figure out why they signed up and to see that disconnect. That's going to be really, really helpful for you. If you just figure out why they left, that's great and it's informative and you can perhaps reverse it, but not only was there a decision about leaving, it countered the initial decision to sign up. And that's going to be really, really helpful information for you, because we're asking about the cancellation, even though there's two decisions that have happened, to sign up and then to leave. So this is going to be really, really useful for you. And then on the back end of like, what did you not like about Bloom? I don't know that you need this question. I included it just as a like placeholder. If it's still something that you decide to have in there, that's fine. But because we've talked about, now the whole thing is focused on like, why did you cancel? What did we do? What was missing from your experience? You don't necessarily need this. Or you can ask like, what else was missing from your experience with Bloom? Although I would ask that like here, yeah, maybe I would cut this question altogether. And anything else you would like to share about your experience with Bloom? So I would do something like that. And here, we would love for you to give Bloom a second chance. Drop your email below and we will gift you, and then whatever that is. Is it a discount? Is it an extended trial? Is it a free month? I would still only offer that to folks who have specifically said something like, didn't have a chance to check it out, or it was too expensive. Because if they're saying, or even technical problems, because if they're saying like the content's too basic for me, I didn't like the speakers in the videos, the content's not actionable, like I couldn't see myself using it, then this sort of falls on deaf ears, right? It's kind of this offer of like, we want you to give Bloom a second chance, but you just told us you don't really see yourself using it. It's just not a fit for you. It sort of feels like a mismatch here, right? So you want to be really careful to offer this in a useful way rather than a counterproductive way that feels like you weren't listening to everything I answered before. So you really want to introduce some skip logic here. And then another catch-all question, like anything else you want to share about your experience with Bloom. So what this is now all about is like, everything is about why you decided to leave. Why did you cancel? What made you want to cancel? Assuming you keep this in here about like, was it the speaker choice? But what made you sign up in the first place? Giving you a second chance. So it's a lot more anchored and tighter. And if you can really harness these multiple choice options, the clarity of insight that you're going to get is going to be huge. You can even like ask follow-ups here, right? The content was too basic for me. Maybe you want to ask for an example, or, you know, they couldn't see themselves using it. What was it about that? Like, is it the daily use, or that it felt like it needed to be regular? And there's a whole underbelly of things that you can tap into that you might even want to reach out to folks and offer an opportunity to hop on a call with them. You know, depending on their answers here, you can add a question below that says like, if you'd be interested in, like, how about this? Would love to hear more about would love to learn from your experience with Bloom. If you're interested in chatting with us, drop your email below. This would not be a sales call. It'd be a 30-minute research interview, and you would get a $25 Amazon gift card, or whatever the case. I mean, this isn't the best language here, but the point is, if someone takes the time to fill out the survey, drop in an opportunity to, is there an email option here? No. Drop in an opportunity to follow up with them, because a lot of the things here are good to know, but they're not as deep and actionable as we could make them if we really understood what was happening. Talking to folks who've canceled with you is such a useful, smart exercise. So I would absolutely throw that in here. You might even, delete this and then just offer an option here to like, would love to learn more about your experience with Bloom. So that it's like, even, you're wanting to continue the conversation further. People who have canceled will tell you not only why they signed up in the first place, but what was missing. So you're getting like lead insights as well as how to improve the experience insight, which is double whammy. So huge. I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, comments, drop them in the comment section below. If you've got a survey you want me to take a peek at, drop it below, send me a DM on Twitter, and like this if you like, give this a thumbs up if you like it. It's helpful input from me. And otherwise, I will see you in the next survey tear down, not tear down, as part of the surveys project. I am Hannah, customer researcher and counselor, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.